Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Mind Bakery episode number two. Two. What idea do you have today?
Well, what has been keeping me occupied today has been Bitcoin touching $50,000. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
crazy. That's
50K.
pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. I know.
So well, something that has always intrigued me is the fact that Bitcoin is a digital currency. So
Hmm.
there is no banking system involved. So there must be a good way to keep it all secure, right?
True.
So the hardware wallets are probably the best technology available right now. What do you think?
Yeah.
So do you think that's the best way that we can do right now?
Uh, I mean, uh, so I have thought about it during 2017 bull run, and I think there are a couple of foolproof way but inconvenient way to do it. So, for example, you
Okay,
can just memorize your private key. So basically,
right,
your 24 words, your mnemonic that results into private key, you just memorize them.
right.
The only downside of it is someday you meet with an accident and then you forget about it.
Mhm.
Second, something very simple which is non-technical. You just write your private key on a piece of paper and then keep that safe. Uh, but no technology involved, very low key. It gets the job done, but again it has its own downsides, which is now paper is fragile. I mean, for how long you'll keep something on a paper, on a piece of paper. uh,
Well, all my currency notes are piece of paper, so I'll preserve them as I preserve my banknotes. I
yeah,
think that is the way I think about it. No?
but but they are circulating. I mean, you are not keeping the same $10 bill for your entire life. Like, it keeps moving
Yeah,
on.
that's true. That's true. Yep.
But I think there are again ways to save some paper, like you get them laminated, this and that. But
Yes,
again,
yes.
now the paper is safe, but where do you keep your paper securely? One way is again to go to these banks and get a locker and keep your paper. But then ideally, your bank owns your Bitcoin because they own the locker. Again, theoretically speaking, the whole idea is to being
Okay.
skeptical because now we are talking about Bitcoin.
True, true.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that's the way to think about it.
yeah.
True. So
I think the
keeping
easiest
that,
software, easiest technical solution is to just use a software wallet, maybe install it on a machine or your phone. But then we keep changing machines and phone, and then it's just a hassle. I think if you have to just migrating the data is hassle. Just imagine if you have $10,000 in a digital file, like a digital file which is worth $10,000. If you just lose it, oh man.
do you think it's so using softwares to keep it safe? So you're saying that it's hassle free. Making it hassle free is more important, or keeping it absolutely super safe is more important, or probably both?
I think the ideal would be somewhere in the middle where it is secure enough and convenient enough. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
as you famously say, security is inversely proportional to convenience.
Yes, I'm a hardcore believer of the fact. Security and convenience are always inversely proportional
Yeah.
to each other.
So
Yes.
if I look at a graph where security is going up and convenience is coming down, there is a point where these two slopes meet. So probably the ideal way
Around
is
that point.
where
Yeah.
around that point where something is secure enough, but also a little convenient enough.
Okay. So yes. So, but what about all these news that we keep on hearing? Hijacking the computer systems or hacking into
Oh,
databases. So I mean, I'm not a technical expert on all the security vulnerabilities, but it makes you skeptical at least. No.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, even I am skeptical to keep things anything digital if it is something really important.
Right.
If something is really important, make sure, like, I'm not talking about Bitcoin, just any important file. If I have to keep any important file, I make sure I at least have two more backups of it.
Right.
uh, so I don't know how to do it in case of Bitcoin. I mean, if you're keeping backups in different places, I think you're just increasing the attack surface.
Right. So, so maybe that's why all this thought of keeping it convenient enough and safe enough is culminating into a technology called as a hardware Bitcoin wallet.
Yep,
No?
yep. Yes, it is an interesting technology, but I'll share my experience with my hardware wallet.
Okay.
So the problem with hardware wallet is that the firmware gets outdated and updating them is a huge hassle. I mean, it gives you nightmare because
Mm-hmm.
suppose, for example, now this is not a device that you'll use actively every single day like your mobile phone. You'll just put something
Okay.
in it and then you'll forget it for next 10 years. Idle case. Idle
Okay.
case. Now, over these 10 years, the technology world has moved forward. The
Mm-hmm.
security patches have been there. So when you plug your wallet, hardware wallet, after 10 years into your computer system, the computer system does not recognize. I mean, so many things happen. So, for example, I had a hardware wallet in 2017. It used to work with Chrome browser. There was a plugin, and then in 2019 when I plugged it in, I had to get so much more setup done, download a custom app on my desktop, connect to with it, then update the firmware. And the problem was, when I was updating the firmware, it kept showing this error: not enough storage, delete this, delete that. And so basically, like, that became itself a hassle. Ideally, if
Okay.
I can just put something in it, there's no firmware, like it does such a minimal job of keeping just the private key that no firmware updates are needed. uh,
Yes.
Something like that would be interesting, but as soon as you keep adding more and more features to it, it again becomes like a little bit of hassle and the convenience starts to go down.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely agree with your point. So let's look at the ordinary wallet, where we
Okay.
keep banknotes. It doesn't
Okay.
need any upgrades, right? It's
Yes.
a dead simple device, probably hasn't changed in the last 50 years or so. Okay.
Yes.
So why do you think these wallets need the hardware wallets need to be so overly sophisticated? I mean, they're only presumably their only job is to keep a certain set of numbers secure, right? Out of reach of ordinary abuse, to
Yes.
put it mildly. So why do you need software updates? I mean, as you're saying, just have a simple chip with a tiny processing power or a tiny memory system. You don't need a lot. I mean, okay, it doesn't need to have an operating system, this or that. It doesn't have to be a gigantic technology stack, isn't it?
Yep. Absolutely. Now, you see, I think the reason is because when you look at it when you look at just Bitcoin, that it makes sense. But then you look at the
Mm-hmm.
market, and if you talk to people who own Bitcoin, they do not own just Bitcoin. They own 10 different other currencies, each running
Okay.
their own version of encryption key, each running their own blockchains, each running their own version of signatures. So now this device, if it's just about Bitcoin, probably it can be very simple. But then this device has to appeal to a larger audience, again from business perspective, where, hey, if you have 10
Okay.
cryptos, you do not want to buy 10 different devices. You keep all your banknotes in just one wallet.
Okay.
So the addition of features supporting more and more currencies, more and more signatures, this and that, starts to build up the tech debt, and eventually the device becomes bloated.
So the way I see it, okay, so you're probably converting your Bitcoin wallet into some sort of a smartphone kind of a device, which needs regular maintenance because of more features. Or I mean, in this case, I would not say security vulnerabilities, because I would assume that a company providing such a technology would, be much more careful while shipping such a device than say a simple Android app where you could find some IP
Yep.
address leaking around, or some such sort of thing. So you're converting basically a wallet into a dynamic machine which can break anytime depending on the circumstances.
Exactly. You are absolutely right. I mean, uh, just because they have to now, so now maybe the hardware remains the same, but software is changing. Now,
Right.
to provide that flexibility of software to change, more coins to be added, this and that, that makes this small device more like a mini version of a smartphone. Uh,
True.
and again, I think so. It opens up this device to the same vulnerabilities that a smartphone is open to. If that is the case, I would probably just use my smartphone.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So, if it's turning into a machine which is dynamic in nature, then we already have a pretty solid tested device in our pockets already. Why bother with a new new ecosystem? Basically, which would
True.
need it, which will come with its own set of problems and solutions.
Absolutely. But do you think the mobile phones of 2021 are sophisticated enough to keep the private key of a Bitcoin safe and secure?
Now, see, now, yes. So that's an interesting thought because now the way I see it is the following. So let's take a simple smartphone or any computer for that matter. Let's say a
Mhm.
simple smartphone. So it has there are hardware vendors. Okay, so
Mhm.
there is a company that produces the chip.
Okay.
So now the company who is manufacturing a smartphone, say let's take Apple. So
Okay.
Apple has to get its chips fabricated somewhere, and I'm assuming they're not doing it in house. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
probably not doing it in house. So they design their stuff and they get it manufactured outside. So the guy who is fabricating the chips, now Apple needs to trust that guy that there is nothing fishy inside the chips. Uh,
Okay.
20 years
Yes.
ago, this may not be a serious concern because 20 or 25 years ago, you were not doing anything supremely private or secure about
Mm-hmm.
computing engines or computers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one has to ensure that the chip is up to the standards of
Okay.
being used in a hardware wallet kind of a system, right?
Okay.
Then the guy who is writing the software on top of that chip, the architecture, now that
Mm-hmm.
software has to be audited properly for securities.
Got it.
Let's say the operating system, that
Mm-hmm.
will run on the smartphone has to be audited properly.
Got
Now,
it.
Apple can do it probably because they have a very tight control over their device, but in the Android world, this is not so easy.
Got it.
Then the guy who's writing the application on top of this operating system needs to trust the operating system below, right? So you see, there are multiple layers of trust that needs
Uh-huh.
to be established even before you begin to, sell a device to the customer.
Got it.
The customer has to trust the company, but the company has to trust a lot of other guys, in the
Got it.
chain. So,
Yep.
so smartphone can be a good hardware wallet only if you can ensure that all these layers are appropriately secured. Now, I would imagine these hardware wallet companies, the dedicated hardware wallet companies, are not involved in such a multi-layer technology stack. Okay, so the way I see it, a single chip, not a very powerful one. It doesn't require an operating system, so you're basically bare metal kind of a. You're in a bare metal kind of a scenario. You
Okay.
write simple application. It doesn't have to interact with anything else. One chip, one app kind of a thing. So probably minimizes a lot of troubles. So, but apart from this fact, I would say smartphones are quite capable to do it. Uh, things like Apple Pay or even Android Pay has something like that. No, is it called Android or something? I don't know.
I don't know either.
No, okay. So the analogous payment system in
Okay.
Android world, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already dealing with currencies up to the satisfaction of the company as well as the user. So there is some kind of a trust built in there at the moment. So I don't
Got it.
know. Maybe this thing can be pushed to even keep your private keys for digital currencies. Why not?
Got it. So basically, as long as uh, Apple can verify chip manufacturer has done no fishy job, they
Right.
can verify that what they have gotten after the fabrication is same as what they sent as design.
Right.
Uh, and if they can have a very well audited operating system, uh,
Yes.
I'm sure bugs would always be there, but at
Yes.
least bugs would always be there, but probably the module that interacts with that part of the chip is like well audited, maybe dozens of times, and then only opening those APIs to the app developers which are known sensitive.
Yeah, excellent point. Because as far as I understand, the Apple ID system, the touch
Hmm.
system, even in Android as well,
Okay.
the APIs for third-party application are not provided for
Hmm.
the ID system. I mean, you cannot write an app where you can directly interact with the
Got it.
identific biometric sensing systems. There are no APIs provided by the operating system. So keeping it secure, only the owners of the technology can develop something on top of it. Say like Apple's operating system can deal with or can interact with the biometrics, but not the apps on top.
Yep, I actually read it that your biometrics are stored on the device, not even Apple's cloud, and
Yes,
it's stored in something called secure enclave. So even if Apple wants
true.
to uh, do it, they'll have to get hold of your device and then spend ton of money to
Absolutely.
decode anything and at all,
Right,
if at all.
right.
And apps absolutely have no access to that part of the chip where all of this sensitive data is stored. So the idea is to maybe store private keys over there itself.
I don't think the problem is solved because if say you are the guy who wants to make an app wallet,
Hmm.
so your software is going to run on Apple's system, but now you want access to that secure enclave, no, and that's
Uh,
absent.
uh, yes. I mean, I think Apple has to directly, for example, just like how Apple natively supports Touch ID. So apps are not free to do anything. So Apple will have to
Right,
directly support Bitcoin support
absolutely. So unless
within secure enclave.
unless the
Yeah.
manufacturer gets into the game of wallets,
Yes.
I think it,
Got it.
it doesn't solve a lot of problems, right?
Got it. Got it. Got it. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
So
smartphones, yes. So if you're playing with an app as a wallet, then I don't think there's any problem. Then what you're saying, updates, security patches, all that, all that crazy business cannot be avoided.
got it. So again, coming back to the question, but how do you keep your Bitcoin safe then?
Well, look, ideally, I would not want my money to touch any technology,
Okay.
ideally. Simply because I do not own the technology, it's distributed. Everybody knows how to write a C program or how to write a Java program.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And anybody who can program a computer, can program anything
Got it.
to attack my system. So ideally, I would not want any technology to touch my money.
Okay.
But then I have to rely on my memory
Mm-hmm.
or some piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm so for the paranoid guy. I would it sounds again counterintuitive. I will probably write it down on a piece of material which doesn't decay for 100 years. I'll wrap it in a
Okay.
piece of plastic and probably put it in a bank locker. As I
Got it.
the traditional way of preserving valuable
Got
things.
it. Got it.
But then that's only good if I want to keep it safe. But if I want to interact with it on a regular
Hmm.
basis, then it's quite pointless.
How do you do it?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do I do that? So the way I interact with it every day, then it's unavoidable that I come in contact with technology. I have to get onto the internet to do anything
Yes.
useful with it. So, see, the way I see it is the following. If I'm anyways going to be on the internet, or
Mm-hmm.
when I say internet, I would
On
mean,
technology.
yeah, technology, coming in contact with technology. So I might as well try to keep it on the same technology system where I'm going to interact with it. But then the question is coming back onto itself. Then I don't see there is anything better at the moment than the hardware wallets. Perhaps the way they implement hardware wallets could be improved. I don't know. Recently, there have been. I read somewhere recently that the Treasure wallet
Mm-hmm.
has been hacked to reveal its secrets. No, did you read that or no?
Yeah. I saw the video. I saw the video. The my only again being skeptic. My only skepticism is that what I saw on the screen was that in the video that this person connected the treasure wallet, ran a Python program. It kept outputting anything, something gibberish, and then towards the end it outputted 12 words.
Right.
I do not really know if those were the 12 words which were inside the treasure, or it's just like a gimmick to output any 12
Uh,
words, which seem like the treasure is broken, but maybe really not. So I'm again one of those parts which I could not verify or prove. So
no, if I remember correctly, they probably okay. So I don't own a Treasure wallet, so I could be wrong here. But to gain access to a Treasure wallet, you need a PIN, right? A 4-digit or 5-digit PIN of some sort.
yes, yes, you do.
Right. So what they did was they hacked into the system. Okay, so they cracked the PIN first.
Okay,
So if you crack the pin, now cracking a pin is significantly simpler than cracking that 12 word thing,
okay. Mm-hmm.
because that's much harder.
Got it.
Probably unrealistic to crack that one brute force.
Yep.
So I think they got into it by cracking the 4-digit or the 5-digit pin, and then once you're in, you're basically the owner of that seed, that 12-word
Got it.
seed, and then
Got it.
everything is plain and simple after that.
Got it.
So
So
what they
basically,
were trying to say was, okay, I don't know, did they publish it somewhere in detail? But my guess would be what they were trying to say was that, stop using 4-digit or 5-digit pins as the
okay.
first barrier to your secure system, probably.
Oh, got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. So basically, again to break a treasure, you would need the access to the device first,
Right.
and probably if so, if I compare non-tech version of writing something on the piece of paper and then tech version of keeping it into a hardware wallet, either ways you need access to them. If you're able to get
Right.
access to either of these, I mean, your bitcoins are gone.
Right.
So
Yes.
so,
Huh.
so
So right, physical. I think getting a physical access is then the game is over. I
yep.
would say.
What if you make it difficult to get physical access of the thing? I mean, I read this at so this one guy on Twitter. He mentioned again years back how he keeps his bitcoins is he writes his 12 words mnemonic on three different papers, forward each paper, and keep these three papers in three different places. Only he
Okay.
knows where those papers are. If somebody gets hold of the paper, they cannot make sense of it, what is it, because they do not have the rest to paper. Somebody will have to so basically he just 3x'd the difficulty to get the physical access to something.
Well, simpler would be to just keep it in a bank locker. I mean,
But
okay,
then
I
the bank,
understand what you're saying. No,
yeah,
but even if the guy is keeping his secret by writing it on a piece of paper, then he probably sacrifices on the convenience of using them on a regular basis. No, so how does he interact
yeah.
with the system?
So again no interaction, it is just like to keep safe. So for example, I do not really know. So if I were
Okay,
him, I would probably make 3 pages, 4 words each, and I'll keep in different lockers of three different banks. So even if bank someday wants to crack open my locker and see what is inside it, they'll just see 4 words and which will not make any sense to them. Only three these different banks will have to get together to attack one person. Only then something like that will happen.
yeah, I understand. Look, I've read many times in standard textbooks, and I've heard many smart people say this, that security by obscurity is really not a security. It's just you're making a fool of yourself, essentially, what it means. I don't know. Look, maybe they can
Is
prove it.
question
Right.
isn't all security by obscurity? I mean, any encryption is just obscuring something.
No. So what I mean by obscurity here is the following. Let's take up standard encryption.
Okay.
You know how to encrypt a message, okay?
Hmm.
I know how to encrypt a message. We both know the algorithms.
Hmm.
And there are algorithms which do not even necessarily want you to put in a secret salt or things like that. You just
Okay.
plug in the secret, and you just process it through a algorithm, and it spits out some gibberish which is not easy to reverse engineer.
Got it.
Probably, a simple version of encryption goes like that. Now
Yes.
you know how the algorithm works, I know how the algorithm works. So if I give you the output of such an algorithm, it's probably not very realistic to crack it open, no? So this is not obscurity. I mean, you're protecting a secret even when I know the other guy knows how it was protected in the first place. It's just incredibly hard to undo that. So
So again, like, but so yes, I know the algorithm. I just do not
right,
know the data that went into it, right?
exactly.
So I think keeping three different papers in three different bank lockers is same. You know the algorithm. I'll tell you,
Right,
hey, I have divided to three pieces, and those are in three different bank lockers. But you do not know the
right,
data, which three
right.
pieces, which three banks, which three lockers. Only so this is like you know the algorithm, but you
Right.
do not know the data. That is something that I am aware.
No, so let me elaborate on this point. Suppose I even tell you, I have kept three pieces of paper in bank A, bank B, and bank C.
Mm-hmm.
I also tell you that locker number 54 in bank A, locker number 67 in bank B, and locker number 89 in bank C.
Mm-hmm.
I also tell you where I keep my keys,
Mm-hmm.
and I also tell you how to get into the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I'm trusting the bank authorities that even if you have probably everything to know about it, still the guards will stop you from entering because you're not the authority or you're not the owner of the bank. So I trust the bank to test, to verify the ownership of those lockers. No, so this is what I mean by knowing the complete algorithm. So I have to tell you everything there is to know about the lockers, except that the guards will stop you.
Got
That's
it.
what I'm hoping for. So
Got it.
encryption algorithm, I would say, works in the following way: that I tell you how to add, how to subtract, do this, do that. But when the output comes and I ask you the corresponding input, now it's impossible to get it. So I don't think there is anything hidden about the process except the input data, which is the whole idea. So except the input data, everything is revealed, but still you cannot get hold of the data. No, that's what I mean by no obscurity.
Got Got it. But have you not heard about encryption algorithms breaking up after like old encryption algorithms which were in use 15 years ago? Now they're no longer in use because we were able to find flaws in them, faults in them.
Yes.
So we have come up with
Uh,
something better.
okay, so there are I see two reasons of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
One, there are obvious flaws because
Mm-hmm.
after all, algorithms are designed by humans and we make mistakes. Okay,
Okay.
that I think that's an element of human design that cannot be overcome. Okay, we have to take that into account. But second thing, which is more serious, is the fact that the algorithms is basically what? It's just a simple computation, right? So
Mm-hmm.
encryption depends on the fact that you're doing unbelievably complex mathematical operations, so that it becomes really hard to undo it. So
Yep.
once you overcome that limit of computation by a
Mm-hmm.
technological leap or advancement in computing systems, that eventually gets defeated.
Got it.
So by the time that happens, you push your algorithm's efficacy to a level that it cannot be you cannot undo it in, again,
Got it.
a reasonable amount of time or with reasonable amount of resources.
Got it.
So this is an
Yeah.
inherent weakness in the encryption systems, that you will always be going to upgrade it
Got it.
as the
But yes,
technology. Yes.
so again, unless you upgrade, so basically, so my point was again, this was an kind of obscuring a data in a way that was eventually was figured out by better technology, So then you figure out a better way to obscure. So my only point was maybe all security is just security by obscuring the data.
Okay, so let me tell you what I was thinking of obscurity. I mean,
Okay,
maybe we're talking about the same thing, but let me give you what I was thinking. So suppose I have a banknote and I don't want anybody to get hold of it. Okay. And I know that if I keep it with myself and I am publicly accessible to anybody, anybody can come and snatch it away from me. So what I do is I put it in a plastic bag.
Okay.
And I go out randomly and I dig a hole inside earth, put that plastic there and cover it with mud. Okay. And now I'm committing the location of that treasure in my memory and nothing else and nowhere else.
Okay.
Right. Now there's the earth is huge, right? I can go to any location on earth, dig a hole and put the treasure there. And I do not tell anybody that I did that.
Sure.
Now this is not secure, it's only obscure. Nobody knows where the stuff is. If I tell you, okay, if I give you the coordinates, the latitude and the longitude of that location, it's that simple to dig it up and get it for you, isn't it? So I'm not stopping you to get that. I'm not putting any hurdles in your path to get the treasure, except that I'm not telling you where it is.
So that not having information is the biggest hurdle. I mean, if you think about it, Bitcoin's private keys are exactly this. On a large space, you get 1 point assigned. So in a large graph, you get 1 point assigned.
Right.
The whole point is, it is very difficult to hit the same point again because the surface area is so large.
Absolutely.
So instead of and if it would take centuries for somebody to try to hit every single point and check it.
Absolutely.
So, but as soon as I tell you that this is my point, or maybe this is the place on the graph where my point lies, it's easy for you to get my Bitcoins. It's absolutely so.
No, so what I'm saying is that committing the location of the treasure in my memory inside a city is not hard. I remember a particular building or a particular traffic light or something. Something that I believe will outlast me. It will be there till the time I'm living, assuming that. So memorizing such things is not hard, but memorizing that key, the Bitcoin key, is harder, right? So otherwise, same thing. But yes, now.
Of course, I mean.
No.
So my point
now
is.
I'm thinking about it. Now I'm thinking about it, and I know the flaw in this whole scheme is that if I want to use the Bitcoin again and again, it's equivalent to the fact that I'm digging up the treasure every day, every morning. So I'm bound to reveal it to somebody passing by. So yeah, I guess obscurity doesn't work much. Obscurity is not such a great idea after all.
But I think there's only obscurity. There's nothing else. I mean, so are you saying another way to do is tell everybody this is where my treasure is, and then build walls around it, cannons, everything, this and that, so that nobody can get in?
I think that's the best strategy, and we call such institutes as banks, I believe.
Banks, I mean,
or a more
I again know bank robberies.
Where the protection system is significantly better.
Yep. Also, they protect something physical. Probably to protect something digital could be something simpler. I don't know.
No, protecting something digital. See, the problem is everybody has access to the digital systems. That's the whole problem.
And also,
if I want to break into your bank, I have to fight so many systems built around.
We are assuming that bank is on your side. Only then. What if bank wants to get hold of your Bitcoin?
Well, then it's the same question. What if the Bitcoin wallet manufacturer wants to get hold of your Bitcoins? So why cannot prevent that?
That's why the paper. paper and three pieces and three banks. That's why the obscurity, because even when, so now you are saying we build walls around it and there's one security guard securing this thing. What if the security guard itself is himself is the thief?
Yeah, I understand. So you're basically not putting all your eggs in one basket. So if
Yes.
anybody gets corrupt,
Yes,
so it's
I'm
only that
saying
guy who is corrupt.
yes, I'm just trying to distribute uh,
Distribute your secret in such a way that.
my information such a way that even if only one person gets to it, it doesn't make sense to him or her. If two-person gets to it, maybe again doesn't, only three or maybe all of them have to get together to attack me, then they can again. So I again, this is not impossible, just little more improbable.
Yeah, you're just making it harder. That's all. So,
Yep,
but
yep.
I think you told me or somebody. I think Bitcoin has a proposal for such a thing inbuilt, isn't it? For breaking up the
Yeah.
keys into multiple parts, and I don't know what's that called,
No.
multi-sig or something.
So yeah, so there is no proposal to break your keys. So, but there is a proposal to have multiple keys to sign a transaction. Only then something can go in. So these are
Essentially,
called
same thing, no?
essentially same thing. Yes. So these are
Yes.
multi-signature wallets, which are uh, so a wallet which is governed by n number of keys, and you can define out of these n at least how many minimum are required to make the transaction happen. So if you are working in a team, or maybe if you, your spouse, and somebody else, like people like these, have bought some Bitcoin, probably you will keep them in a multi-sig wallet, so that even if one person wants to like get uh, rules over it and wants to take away your Bitcoin, they cannot do it because they'll need approval of all the parties involved. But then the downside of this is, what if somebody says, "Hey, do whatever you want to do. I'll not share my key. This money is locked forever." Again,
Yeah, but
critical.
then there are schemes
Yeah,
like
theory.
X out of Y keys. I
Yes,
distribute
yes,
it five
yes,
times and use only three, any three available at a time.
yes,
So
yes.
I don't
So
know. So
that's there.
why is such a system not into use? So, or is it into use?
Oh, it is into use. I think there are many multi-sig wallets, not hardware wallets again, software wallets only, which allows you to have multiple keys, private keys, each owned by different person. This person can be anywhere. So basically,
Right.
when you have to make a transaction, you coordinate with this person offline, outside of protocol, and you say, boss, let's make this transaction to this person. I am signing my part, so you sign your part. So one person signs the part, sends the half signed transaction to the second person. Hey, now put your signature into it. This person puts the signature into it, and then the final transaction is broadcasted to the blockchain.
Yeah.
So
So
software
now you are
wallets are there,
sacrificing
but I
convenience
think
for security.
yes. So software wallets are there, and I think software wallets are good enough because anyway the information is distributed across two different machines of two different people in two different points of the earth.
Okay. Okay. You believe that software wallets are currently probably better than hardware wallets when it comes to keeping them secure?
Absolutely not. I'm saying multi-sig wallets are better than hardware wallet.
Okay. So why not multi-sig on hardware? There is no such thing in existence.
uh, I mean, multi-sig hardware wallet would be just a hardware wallet. I mean, multi-sig means multiple parties maintaining their own
Oh,
private
okay.
keys.
I see. I guess.
So
Okay. Now I understand. So, okay. So one wallet would still mean one owner of it, right? So
yeah,
multi-sig is
one
basically
wallet, one
vanished.
private
Yeah.
key, one owner. There will be another
Okay.
wallet with another person, with another
Yeah.
private key. So that is
Right.
multi-sig. So if you want, so now suppose if there's nobody involved and you just want to keep your money safe, so probably you
Okay.
will buy three hardware wallets. You'll put all the money in a multi-sig wallet controlled by these three hardware wallets. And you can create a scheme of like two out of three or something, and then keep these three hardware wallets in three different banks. Again,
Okay. So yeah. So that sounds like a reasonable plan. So why this cry of wallets being hacked? Then I think it's pretty much
so
solved. No.
so again, I mean, okay, so this comes down to your equation of security inversely proportional to convenience. maintaining three hardware wallets is three times difficult than maintaining one hardware wallet. So it's just that.
No, I'm the owner of one of the devices. No, the other two guys are responsible
Oh,
for their wallet. So
oh yes, yes, yes. I mean, if other guys are responsible, then yes, that's fine. This is something
okay,
which
so
is
now
in
you're
use
saying okay, now
at
you're saying that now
institutions.
okay, so now you're saying that I'm relying on the intelligence of those guys, or I'm relying myself on those guys, for them to be responsible about it. No.
I mean, yes, but I think that's reasonable reliance. Uh, uh, at institutions, organizations who are buying bitcoins, they have their one only one person does not own something or control something.
Yeah,
Uh,
I understand.
so just like they have a board to control the company, they have a group of people controlling the multisig wallet where they're keeping the bitcoins.
Well, now it's starting to sound more like a bank again. No.
Why so?
Multiple people's institutes, infrastructure, protocols, and all
Multiple
that.
people,
Except,
like, again, no banks. I mean, you and I together bought bitcoins, kept in a wallet that is controlled by you and I. That's it.
okay, no, when you're saying, in an infrastructure where there are multiple people, so now that's like an institution, no?
So suppose if we are a company, only then I'm
Mm-hmm.
so institution means companies of Tesla recently bought $1.5 billion worth of bitcoin.
So where
Now
did
these
they keep it?
1.5, so they would not be keeping it into say a one hardware wallet. They would
Okay,
directly go to another company, a custodian company, which is very similar to what banks do. They maintain multiple hardware wallets. They distribute everything across multiple hardware wallets. So their job is to keep the Bitcoin safe. Again, they become the bank of the crypto world. Then custodians
right.
of
So yeah,
crypto.
yeah. So basically, again, Tesla has to have faith in that custodian company, no?
Oh yes, yes, yes. But they have one thing. So basically, uh, in the multisig wallet, usually how it happens is with the custodians. Suppose the custodian wallets are like a multisig wallet. You own one part of the private key. So even if custodian tries to run away, they cannot. You own one part of the private key. They cannot do anything without you.
But neither can I.
So again, so think of it like two out of four, two out of neither can you. Yes, I'm thinking of a scheme where you have enough private keys. If you want to do something, you can do it, but they'll need at least one of your keys.
But if I have enough keys that I can do what I want to, then those keys stored there are pointless to me anyway.
Yep, good
So
point.
there still has to be some degree of faith into an institution. No, I mean that seems
I
like
mean,
an unavoidable thing to do.
yeah. So yes, so basically the degree of faith would be when you need something, they'll give you their private keys. I mean, they cannot run away with your money without your private key, but yes,
Sure.
when you would need it, what if they deny? Or
What
what
if
if
they
they just
deny?
say,
Yes, yes,
what if they deny? What if they just say, hey, we lost it? I mean,
right.
that's true. That's true.
No, no, yeah. So again, if you need laws and protocols to protect your money,
Then banks are
then
there.
yeah, yeah. So maybe the only difference between the cryptocurrency world and the regular currency world is just the nature of the currency. I think everything
Yes.
eventually converges to the same point, no?
Yes. So for example, even in bank lockers, they give two keys. One key is with the bank, one key is with you.
And
And the idea
right,
is they cannot open it without you. You cannot open it without them. But what if somebody
right.
just takes the hammer and break open the locker?
Or bank decides not to cooperate with me next time I visit
Yes.
them.
Yes. So basically, non-cooperation, the problem still exists. The
Yeah.
only problem which doesn't exist is that they cannot just take hammer and break open the locker now without you.
Yeah, okay. Or, I mean, I think the major attraction, as far as I'm concerned, for the digital currency thing, is that I don't know. I still do not have to answer as many questions as I have to when I want to withdraw money or borrow money from a bank. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know. That doesn't sound like um, a very good reason to have an attraction towards the cryptocurrency, but that's probably one of the things that you it makes you more in control of your money than the regular banking systems.
Yep.
I would imagine.
Yes, agree. And that's why you have to answer, because the people who are asking the question, they do not want you to have too much control on your own things.
Yes, and understandably so. I mean, I understand why
Yes.
they want to control such a thing, but to avoid that control is what triggered this whole crypto boom,
Yep.
isn't it?
Yep.
Not
Yep.
crypto
Yep.
boom, the idea of a
The idea of cryptocurrencies. Yes.
right. But if eventually we are going into a situation where the infrastructure around it is going to
Hmm.
converge to a system like the regular banks, then I don't know how much better would I say is cryptocurrency compared to the regular thing. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So here's the thing. Some things are choices. Some things are uh, uh, forced. So, for example, you have a
Right.
choice to keep your bitcoins with yourself, maintain your own private security.
Right.
You have a choice, and you have same choice with your money as well.
Yes, I can keep it at home.
Yep. Uh, but then with banks, the dependency is, if you want to use your money, you need a bank.
Yes.
Over here, if you need to use the money, you do not need a bank or
True.
anybody else. You just directly need one computer, your private key, and you are just using it.
If I'm keeping hold of them at my own place, in
Yes,
my own
yes,
possession.
yes.
But the moment
So,
I go with the moment I have a thing like Tesla, where I
mhm,
cannot keep it at my home,
yep.
I'm basically getting into the same loop, more or less.
Again, yes. Again, it's slightly better than this, but again, it
Right.
entirely depends on the group who is together trying to control the asset. It
Yes,
entirely
yes,
depends
yes.
how do they want to do it.
Okay, so maybe the hope is that this institution may not be as bad. When I say bad, I mean undesirable
I
as the
mean,
current system. No.
yeah. So basically, there are two negative sides to the current system. One is non-cooperation. One is breaking using a hammer. Over here, non-cooperation could be an issue, but breaking using a hammer, it cannot be an issue. So at least it's twice as much better than the current
Right.
systems.
So breaking in with a hammer is significantly harder in this system. That's what you're claiming, or that's what you're
Yeah,
suggesting.
yeah. Breaking open with a hammer is just like a brute force attacking a very large sample space. If that is done someday, Bitcoin itself will
No,
fail.
no. Breaking with the hammer is what I mean when you are basically hacking my wallet. That's what I call
Oh,
breaking in with the
hacking a
hammer.
wallet.
No.
I thought
Huh.
guessing your private key.
No, no, I don't. I'm not guessing the private key. I know where it's
Yeah,
put, so I'll just crack it
yeah.
open.
Yep,
Now
yep,
I
yep.
don't know whether hacking into a hardware wallet is easier than breaking into a bank. I don't know. Maybe it is harder now or easier now, but I don't know what's the
Even
situation,
I
right?
don't know. Even I don't know. I mean,
I mean, given enough resources, I can break into a bank, no?
of course.
So given enough resources, I can break into a hardware wallet. So if the difficulty level is comparable, then again, I don't know if I'm getting anything significantly simpler or convenient or secure when I
True.
talk
So
about digital currencies.
true, true. I mean, breaking. Now, suppose if you have a custodian who is keeping three keys, and then you have the fourth key. Even if I hack into your wallet, I get nothing. Only if this company who has three other keys tries to hack into your. So again, the problem is incentive. So it's like saying, if bank wants to rob you of your money, bank will have to invest $10 million to rob you of your $5,000. You see,
Okay, so you're protecting my money from the institution or the attacker. When I say attacker,
both.
is the regular guy.
Both. I mean, the regular guy will have to hack your wallet, your private key, as well as three other private keys with this institution. The
Right.
institution will have to hack into your wallet, and so this is like somebody who says, "I'll protect you," and then tries to then invest heavily to break open your thing. I think you can see that coming. You can move your money from there, uh,
No,
but
so I understand what you're saying. So let's imagine. your local bank. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say tomorrow there is a fire at the bank and it gets destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lose your money because it's not physically placed there. I mean, it's there, but it's not yours entirely. So tomorrow, when there's the bank reopens, you can again go and claim your money, and they are bound to give you that. No.
So for example, money, yes, because most money is digital. But if I have kept, say, some very
Assets.
important papers in a locker, they burn up.
Right.
I'm never getting them back.
Right. Right. Right.
I'm never getting them back, and I cannot claim anything because definitely there must be some insurance around it. But I cannot claim that the value of these papers were like $10 billion. So I need a claim of $10 billion.
Yeah, but I think that problem is also unsolved in currency. I mean, we talk about currencies. No, suppose you have your property papers in your bank locker. Now you cannot put them on a hardware wallet anyway.
Uh-huh. True.
So keeping that thing aside, as far as currencies are concerned, your money, if even if the bank building goes down, you can go tomorrow.
Again, we are assuming bank is on the other our side. I'm saying bank is not on
Right,
our side.
absolutely. True. Yes. Yes. If the bank is not your friend, then you're basically doomed. True.
Do you remember 2018 when one fine day somebody said the currency, the cash that you have is invalid?
I know.
So again, so how do you know that currency that you're holding right now is will stay valid? I mean, there's no guarantee. I mean, even on those invalid currencies, it was written by governor. I promised
I
that the bearer
understand.
of this. So I just say we are assuming that uh, the only thing is over there trust is a necessity. Over here, trusting somebody is a choice. And I think the only difference is that this is a choice, not a
Okay. So
necessity.
you're basically okay. So having a choice is basically somehow empowering. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely, the choice is important. For
Okay. So
example,
that.
yeah, I can go a little bit deeper into it. So for example, if so Facebook as a company, not calling out Facebook per se, but any company which starts, they have to earn the trust of the users. So for that, they keep their services free, they give everything, they listen to the users. But at some point, if they're building a business, they have to start monetizing something. And then we look at them as evil guys, because now they seem like they have turned on to us. They're selling our data. The privacy is not there, but that is their business. Similarly, uh, so what happens is now you don't have a choice. You the choice that you have is stop using the service. But the right choice that I would want is I can migrate to a different service with all of my data intact. Similar
Okay.
to your email lists I think is the most migratable uh, uh, audience that you can form. If, so for example, if you
Okay.
have 10 million followers on Twitter has power to ban your account. You lose every single
Right.
thing. But if you have 10 million email addresses of your audiences, you can directly reach out to them because email protocol is open, email clients are abundant, the email address is not owned by any one company. Uh, they cannot shut all your audience down. Again, so something very similar to email lists in the world of Facebooks and Twitters.
I see what you're saying. Okay, so having a choice to migrate is a good thing to have. That's what you're saying.
Yes, and you migrate only when you own the data and you control the data. If So Facebook gives you so many tools that it makes you believe that you control the privacy and data, but really they control the data because it's sitting on their servers. But
Right.
somehow, if you would have been in control of your data, you had a choice, boss. I was liking you until this point. Now I disagree with some of your things. I'll just take my data, move over to this another client, and everything is fine over here. Just like your emails. If you stop loving Gmail someday, you can move all of the mails to some other client, and you can have the same life over there, same inbox. You
Right.
lose nothing,
Right.
absolutely nothing.
Right. I understand. Good point. I understand.
Got it.
So, well, as far as then, if as far as wallets are concerned, then I would say, as long as you're not allowing anybody to have physical access to your device, I think it's pretty
Yep.
safe, no?
Yes, I think uh, having stopping somebody from having physical access is a
Is
very
enough.
good start. A
Right.
very good start. I mean, you can just multiply it by having distributing multiple things and having somebody to access 3 or 4 or 5 physical devices to get access. You can multiply it as many times as you want, but I think uh, that may be the sweet point where security and convenience meets.
Yes, that's true. I understand. Yes. So
All right.
that's probably all that I had in
Oh
mind.
yes. Oh yes. This was amazing. This was amazing. Bitcoin, $50,000. Buy it. Okay.
Yeah, good luck.
So, uh, thank you, Sumit. So this was Mind Bakery episode number 2. Next week I'll think of something and then we'll discuss it. All
Bye
right.
bye.
Bye bye.